The US didn't lose German automakers in a trade war. It pushed them out with a sledgehammer. Overnight, BMW froze $26 billion in US investment. Mercedes rerouted its next-gen tech to China. Audi pulled the plug completely. And while Trump cheered tariffs as a win, America's top auto suppliers started collapsing in silence. Ford's bleeding billions. GM hit the brakes on its future lineup. And now China's building German cars for the world while Detroit watches from the sidelines. This isn't a policy debate. It's an industrial evacuation. And what's coming next makes this look like a warm-up lap. In April 2025, without warning or congressional consultation, President Trump imposed a 25% tariff on all foreign vehicle imports and up to 200% on specific parts, setting off what Bloomberg called an unprecedented exodus of European automakers. BMW, Audi, and Mercedes-Benz initiated a multi-billion-dollar pullback from the U.S. market within weeks, suspending shipments and freezing expansion. According to Germany's Federal Statistical Office, the U.S. accounted for 15.7% of German vehicle exports in 2024, roughly 530,000 units. By May 2025, that number was projected to collapse by over 60%, with Audi halting deliveries entirely. Mercedes-Benz reported the tariffs would reduce its EBIT margin on North American sales by 4.2 percentage points, while BMW warned of a €2.5 billion global hit. These weren't corporate adjustments. They were emergency exits. Yet the deeper cost wasn't just foreign, it was systemic. Because when three of the world's most advanced automakers slam the brakes, the road beneath American auto manufacturing begins to crack. And what's coming around the next bend? Even Detroit isn't ready for it. Trump's 46-word tweet wiped out more than jobs. It wiped out an entire industrial model. BMW's Spartanburg, South Carolina plant, the largest U.S. auto exporter, by value supported 43,000 direct and indirect jobs and contributed $26 billion to the U.S. economy in 2023, according to the U.S. International Trade Administration. By Q2 2025, BMW had suspended component imports, citing 18 to 24% part cost inflation on powertrains and electronics. Mercedes-Benz's Tuscaloosa facility, which built over 260,000 vehicles in 2024, reported a 41% drop in throughput after key ECUs from Germany and Slovakia were flagged under the new import duties. Audi, which had no domestic production, simply stopped importing. More than 2,500 U.S. suppliers tied to these automakers, many of them small businesses, faced mass cancellations. According to the Center for Automotive Research, the U.S. stands to lose up to $45 billion in total economic output over the next 12 months if these exits persist. And yet, while the U.S. imposed its penalties, another global superpower quietly opened its doors and offered something America could no longer promise: stability. Mercedes-Benz's next-generation EV platform, originally slated for U.S. development, is now being built in China's Pearl River Delta. In May 2025, BMW broke ground on a €4 billion factory in Chengdu, with a planned capacity of 350,000 units per year, according to Reuters. Audi, meanwhile, inked new R&D partnerships with Huawei and Tencent to develop autonomous vehicle software, relocating over 500 engineers from its California office to new campuses in Shanghai and Shenzhen. China's government offered tax credits, land grants, and 10-year regulatory exemptions under its Smart Auto 2030 initiative, a direct incentive package unavailable in the U.S. post-tariff. The Financial Times reports that German EV tech, including proprietary battery architecture and software stacks, is now being licensed to Chinese joint ventures tech once protected on American soil. For Beijing, this isn't just a win, it's a strategic annexation of luxury automotive prestige. And for Washington, the losses extend beyond vehicles. With design data and R&D all rerouted to Asia, America isn't just watching innovation move overseas, it's watching the blueprint for the future drive off without it. Ford didn't celebrate the German retreat. It issued a warning. On May 3rd, CEO Jim Farley told analysts that Trump's tariffs would reduce the company's adjusted EBITDA by $1.5 billion in 2025 due to increased costs on imported drivetrains and microchips. General Motors suspended its forward guidance entirely, citing unprecedented market volatility. According to S&P Global, 48% of U.S.-made vehicles still rely on critical imported components. ECUs, semiconductors, and advanced battery modules, all now subject to price hikes of 15 to 35%. Stellantis halted production of its plug-in hybrids for 5 weeks due to delayed powertrain imports. But perhaps the most dangerous development was invisible innovation stagnation. Without Audi's Quattro-Tech, BMW's hybrid systems, or Mercedes's UX design teams as rivals, American brands risk slipping into a vacuum of complacency. Cadillac's EV line remains $20,000 above its German counterparts in projected pricing, while Lincoln's new Navigator launch was delayed again due to sensor shortages. As competitors vanish, so does the external pressure that once pushed Detroit to lead. What's left a domestic industry stuck recalculating and racing without a pace car? Call it irony, or call it sabotage in slow motion. Because this wasn't how the story was supposed to go. The tariffs were meant to bring jobs back to make Detroit roar again. Instead, they emptied out the very supply chain that made it competitive. And while America's factories stall, the rest of the world isn't waiting. They're rewiring the game entirely. The European Union has begun drafting retaliatory tariffs in direct response to Trump's 2025 auto import duties, signaling what Germany's IFO Institute calls a realignment of economic alliances away from Washington. In 2024, Germany exported 3.4 million passenger vehicles globally, nearly one-fifth of which went to the U.S. But that pipeline is now fracturing. The UK secured a bilateral exemption on up to 100,000 vehicles, cutting tariffs from 27.5% to 17.5% on British cars, according to the BBC. Meanwhile, supply chains are pivoting toward Asia, where German automakers are ramping up regional production to bypass U.S. volatility. Stability has replaced efficiency as the top priority, said Dirk Dues of the Kiel Institute, warning that global manufacturing is becoming politically segmented. While America once anchored the global auto value chain, it's now being rerouted through trade corridors that Washington no longer controls. And as foreign partners draft selective pacts, the U.S. may find itself navigating a trade map where fewer routes lead back home. Behind closed warehouses and silent production lines, more than 2,500 U.S. auto suppliers are facing collapse, with the Center for Automotive Research estimating over 40,000 at-risk jobs tied to German automaker contracts. In Toledo, a manufacturer of Mercedes-Benz suspension components furloughed 80% of its workforce after losing its largest client. In Tennessee, a wiring harness firm that serviced BMW is filing for bankruptcy protection. Yet Wall Street's attention remains on quarterly earnings, ignoring the supply chain hemorrhage that threatens long-term U.S. competitiveness. "This isn't a blip," said CAM director Stefan Bratzel. "It's a cascading failure of a decentralized system with no fallback. As parts dry up, U.S. automakers are forced to pause assembly lines, not due to labor, but because no one can deliver the tech. This isn't just industrial disruption, it's a silent collapse unfolding away from Bloomberg tickers and investor decks. But the next quarter's bottom line won't shield Detroit when the back-end infrastructure simply ceases to exist. Europe's top luxury brands aren't collapsing. They're freezing operations amid a policy environment too volatile to plan around. Porsche cut its 2025 revenue forecast from €40 billion to €38 billion after April's import levies distorted U.S. demand projections, according to a company statement. Volkswagen posted a 37% drop in Q1 profits and warned its full-year returns may fall to the bottom of its guidance range due to political uncertainty and supply chain fragmentation. Audi suspended North American marketing campaigns and halted its logistics expansion into Texas. "Capital allocation is on pause," said Morningstar analyst Rella Suskin, adding that long-term investment is impossible without tariff clarity. Even Volvo, owned by China's Geely, scrapped guidance through 2026 and announced $1.87 billion in global cost cuts. This isn't retreat, it's paralysis. And while Wall Street views it as temporary hesitation, the operational shift is already in motion elsewhere. What's coming isn't a rebound. It's a redirection of capital into markets where the rules don't shift with a tweet. BMW's $4 billion. Chengdu factory, Mercedes-Benz's EV pivot into Shenzhen, and Audi's joint ventures with Chinese firms reflect a deliberate geographic repositioning, not a reaction, but a re-strategy. This isn't waiting out the storm, said Ferdinand Dudenhofer of the Center for Automotive Research. It's a long-term shift toward Asia-led production ecosystems. German automakers are not simply escaping tariffs. They're rewriting the supply chain model. Audi is reportedly exploring a joint US-based plan with Porsche, but only as a secondary fallback. As of May 2025, German brands are redirecting core R&D software development and design operations to Asia, with local recruitment surging across Chengdu, Guangzhou, and Singapore. Volkswagen alone plans to increase Asian output by 22% by Q4 2025, according to internal forecasts cited by the Financial Times. What America is losing is not just factory volume, it's manufacturing influence, design leadership, and control over future automotive standards. And when your competitors are building the future from the ground up without you, you don't just fall behind. You vanish from the blueprint. Trump's tariffs were marketed as a lever to revive U.S. auto dominance, but the data now paints a different picture: declining output, suspended forecasts, and shrinking global relevance. Ford's own executives estimate a $1.5 billion EBIT hit from tariff-driven component inflation, while General Motors has shelved multiple hybrid launches due to parts delays. Mercedes-Benz reported a 4.2-point EBIT margin compression in North America, while Porsche trimmed its U.S. sales forecast by 9%. Even with minor tariff relief on 15% of parts content, automakers say it's not enough to restart paused investment cycles. Tariffs alone cannot create stability, said Dirk Kaufmann of the IFO Institute. What we're seeing is policy friction replacing market function. Meanwhile, Asian markets are absorbing the disruption and the capital. In trying to force localization through blunt instruments, the U.S. has instead created an opening that rivals are racing to fill. And in a global industry that runs on predictability, losing trust may cost more than losing factories. So let's put this in your hands. Are Trump's tariffs rebuilding American industry or just rerouting its collapse? Can Ford and GM fill a $45 billion vacuum left by Germany's exit, or is China quietly positioning itself as the new headquarters of global innovation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this isn't just an economic shift, it's a rewriting of the global automotive playbook. We're glad you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe. Check out another video that is now on your screen.